All right, thank you, everyone. Full disclosure, I just started recording the meeting and nobody reminded me. For those of you who missed it, we had a tremendous holiday celebration party. And I want to thank Randy and Reggie for putting it together. It was just a fun thing. I think about 20 of us participated, and the highlight of the evening was Bill Murphy winning a bottle of bourbon. I recall that gift because I wanted it, but if anybody else was to get it, I'd rather see my friend Murphy get it. So,
Bill, is that bottle history?
What's that?
Bill Murphy, is that bottle now history?
No, actually, I was telling Bill earlier that the seal is still intact on it, and I promised him since I stole it from him that I would hold it for slightly better times and we could get together and have a couple of shots out of it at the same time.
Wow, that's so considerate of you, Bill.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Hi, Mark. Dr. Mark Clark is with us.
Hello, everyone.
And we're going to have one heck of a meeting. I know it's difficult to remember what we're all about as Rotary doing these Zoom meetings, but it's all about service. So keep thinking about service projects. It's your opportunity probably to get outdoors, get your mask on, maybe spread out. And Bob Church has the ideal service project in the works, painting fire hydrants. Bob, do you have anything to tell us on that? I'm not anxious to get out there in the cold, but maybe when it warms up a little bit, what's going on there?
Well, I'm in contact with them, and they're still gonna get back to me on further instructions. I guess right now they're in the process of getting the paint together.
Okay, well, stay on them. Have you contacted Cape Charles?
Yes. Yes, they
Okay.
are.
So as soon as the weather warms up and the paint is flowing, Bob's going to lead us on fire hydrant painting. We haven't had a need for highway cleanup just now because the sheriff had cleaned it up, but I suspect within a few weeks or a month or so, we should be out there getting on the highway. And again, Bob, that falls in your lap. It seems like you're the only guy heading up service stuff. So we ought to correct that. So think about things you can do. They don't have to be big things, but we don't want to lose our reputation or our visibility in the community. Medi's not here, but Medi has agreed to take over the newsletter, and she and Chuck Huber are going to be kind of phasing that in as we go to the end of the fiscal year, when Chuck is going to take over leadership of the club, and his hands will be kind of full. So he and Medi are working out. So if you see Medi, thank her for taking over the newsletter. We still are looking for an awards chairperson. And the awards chairperson is the easiest job in the world. All he or she has to do is go back and look at all the Zoom videos of things we've done as a Rotary Club and report it to district, so we can get some banners and some recognition for all the good things we do. We don't do it to brag, but I think it helps our visibility. It can give us a reason for some newspaper coverage, and it certainly shows the district we're on the job. So that's the new thing I'm gonna be banging your heads on. And you'll forgive me, but it's something we have to do. Now, Paul, will you give us a coronavirus update?
Yeah. It's not a pretty situation. You want me to actually could show a couple of relevant graphs here that are pretty striking. If you want to share the screen with me, maybe. Can you allow me to do that? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Do that. I'm gonna mute people because we've got some noise.
So let me go down to these are oops, I've done the graphs here for per capita. Basically, this is the number of cases per 10,000 people is what it is. And so Northampton County, this is weekly. This is the number of cases per week going over the last 19 weeks, if you will. And this is data as of yesterday, which accumulated the previous week. So that took a big spike. This is Accomack County. That's what Accomack County did last week. This is what the state of Virginia as a whole did. And this is what Cape Charles did last week. This is what Virginia Beach did last week. So this thing is going crazy. I might stop share now. So, and I recommended in this little email that I send to a group of people that requested that everybody just isolate yourselves. It just doesn't make any sense to go out and expose yourself in this environment. This is a dangerous situation. Lots and lots of people are dying. Over 3,000 people are dying a day in the United States now, which we never dreamed could happen. Just a couple of months ago, we thought 1,000 a day was just awful, but now it's over 3,000 a day.
Do you or Mark have any advice for us?
I can say that
Facebook.
we're supposed to be starting an immunization program, hopefully next week with the Moderna.
Next week?
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, we should have the vaccine here next week. And I think they're going to have a clinic Saturday in Nassawattix at the Riverside Family Practice Center up there. They haven't determined the hours or that type of thing, but the vaccine's going to be available for people.
Now, Mark, I believe what I've read is we're on classification 1B right now that are eligible for the vaccine. And that's for people that are 75 years old and older, as well as healthcare workers, emergency care workers, and essential personnel. Is that right? Is that where we are right now?
Well, that's my understanding. I don't know that the governor has actually said that the Eastern Shore is in that stage yet, but by next week we should be. And we're going to keep a list because the vaccine has to be used within 6 hours. So if we're getting down to the end of the day and we're going to have some vaccine left over, we're going to start calling people, whether you're 75 or not, because we don't want to waste it. So.
And one other question, it's a 2-shot deal. If you get the first shot, pretty much you're required to get the second shot within so many days. Are you putting aside that second shot to guarantee it will be there for your second shot? Or are you depleting everything and hopefully you'll have the second shot when you need it?
Well, right now with the Moderna vaccine, you're supposed to get the second shot in 28 days. And I think the plan is to reserve enough doses for the second vaccine. Now, there's some talk about releasing all of the vaccine now and then worrying about the second shot later. And some people might not be able to get the second shot in that 28-day time frame, but that's not the official recommendations right now. But
Thanks.
mhm.
Hey, Mark, how do you get on the list, the emergency list, if you need to call people?
Well, just call our number and they're supposed to put you on the list for phone calls. You know, in that case, if it's getting towards the end of the day and we see we're going to have some extra doses, we'll call people and say, can you get here, you know, in 15, 20 minutes or something, and we'll give you the vaccine. Like I said, we don't want to waste any, and you can't save it until the next day. You have to use it all up when you open the vial.
So
Hey,
Mark, are
Mark,
you,
Mark,
Yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead, Bill.
all right, hey, Mark, just a question on how you notify people. Since you have, if you or Hamilton or Dave, or you're their primary care physician, are you going to notify them that you're in the queue and come in?
I don't know if we're going to notify people right away. If people are in the office and they're 75 and older, or they're in that first responder or essential employee group, they'll be able to get it while they're here. Like I said, if you're not in that age range and you want to be considered to get it, if we have some extra, then just call and we'll put you on a waiting list. But I don't know that they have any plans yet to call people. Now, if you're a Riverside patient and you have my chart, they're supposed to be sending people notifications when it's available, and then you can schedule the vaccine on my chart, or you can call and schedule it.
And Mark, is that
Yeah.
only for your patients?
No, I think it's going to be available for anyone that meets the criteria. They'll have to schedule an appointment, but
Is that mine?
Okay, any other questions for Mark or for Paul? Any comments?
Mark, I've got an appointment with Dave tomorrow morning. Should I wear a short sleeve shirt?
unfortunately, no, we don't have it in the office yet.
I don't think so. Okay.
I have a question, Mark. I'm not a patient of Riverside or anything. I go across the bay. I have my primary over there. So should I call my primary?
Yeah, you can call them, see
Or
what their
you're on-
or their recommendations are for distributing the vaccine. If they can't give it to you there, then I think you can still get it here. You would just have to, like I said, call and make an appointment for it.
Okay, well, look, everybody, do the right thing, wash your hands, do your mask, stay apart, and drink gin. Now, Medi, I see you're in the waiting room and trying to join. Wave if you can, if you're participating in the meeting. Okay, good. Medi's with us, but, oh, now she's in, okay. Not according to my screen, Jack. Okay, special plea. Chuck is now president-elect, and many of you know the president-elect has the lead responsibility, the emphasis is on lead responsibility for recruiting speakers. And Chuck can't do this by himself. I'm going to ask each and every one of you to give Chuck a speaker lead. And speaker leads are anybody you want. You know, if you're too far off the wall, we'll probably reject them. But community characters, community leaders, politicians, your Aunt Mabel in Los Angeles, who has a very interesting thing to say. That's the beauty of Zoom. They don't have to be in Northampton County. They can come right on. So let's help Chuck out. And if you don't call Chuck, I'm going to call you because I want you to be a good Rotarian. And Chuck has stepped up. Nobody else would step up. Chuck said, I'll take the job. So we have to show Chuck that we appreciate that and we support him and lead him in that. So everybody's going to give Chuck a lead. The other thing, I'm asking a lot today, I apologize. The other thing I'd like you to do is call your buddy. If your buddy's on the screen, you don't have to call your buddy, but call your buddy and say, you know, we've been having Zoom meetings. We know you don't fancy Zoom necessarily, but we want you to know that we love you and we miss you. And, you know, really give them a big electronic hug so that they stay in the spirit of Rotary, even though they're not joining with us Tuesday to Tuesday. And I do appreciate those of you who make it every week. We have 19 members today. A lot of that has to do with Jim Rich being the speaker, I know, but yeah, you're hanging in there. Really do appreciate it, and I thank you. And we don't want to, you know, twist anybody's arm who doesn't really like Zoom, but we do want to stay in touch with those folks. The other thing I would ask you to consider, if you check your email, you got an email from Rotary International, and they're conducting a kind of a survey on what you like or don't like about Rotary. I think we're remiss if we don't take the opportunity to help, you know, formulate what Rotary is all about, what we do, how we do it, why we do it, and that sort of thing. So take
Bill,
advantage. Yes.
is that the survey at rotary.org?
It may be. I got a clue. I got an email.
So did I.
Okay, well, just follow on that email, and I'm sure.
All right.
Did it come yesterday, Stan?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure it's the same one.
Yeah, that's it, Stan. And it takes about 10 minutes to get through. You just click on the hot link.
Okay.
And you don't
Thanks.
have to answer every question if you don't want to.
Jackie says she's already done the survey.
Yeah, I did it
All right.
yesterday too.
She gets a gold star. Later, Jackie, you get your star.
Thanks, Bill.
All right. Is there anything anybody would like to say before we have happy dollars? Come on, folks. Don't you have something to say? The cat has their tongue, Jackie.
Yeah.
So, Diane, I am so excited about happy dollars. I am really happy today. It's just, and I'm gonna save my happiness until somebody else shows some happiness. But who's happy? And you know, we don't have to do $5, but you can't do 50 cents, Jackie. You have to do at least $1. And
I'll do,
okay, Chuck's happy.
yeah, I'll do one happy dollar. I'm not real happy, to be honest with you, but last week was my birthday and I hit 70 years old. So I'm not real happy about that, but 40 didn't bother me at all. 50 bothered me. 60 didn't bother me at all, but I have to say 70 is another one that's bothering me.
How many dollars was that, Chuck?
One, that's all it's worth.
He's not that happy.
Mine is worth.
Hey,
no more
Chuck.
Chuck.
There were a lot of
One for every
people.
year.
Hey, Chuck, there are a lot of people that are in your club. Paul,
Yes,
Paul, you
including
have
you,
something
Bill.
to say.
Well, I've got to throw in some happy dollars for my Alabama team. I've kept pretty quiet about Alabama this year, but just can't be quiet anymore. They clearly showed they're the most dominant team in college football last night. I've got I'll do 10 happy dollars at all. One. I'll do a couple for Devontae Smith, the Heisman Trophy winner who had just an unbelievable game. A couple for Mac Jones, their quarterback, who was outstanding as he's been all year, and Najee Harris is just an unbelievable back. They're three of the best college players in football. Three of the top 6 in the Heisman voting, by the way. I don't think anybody possibly could stop them anywhere in the country.
So were those $2 things part of the $10, or is it $10?
Yeah, they're part of the $10 thing.
Okay.
And the rest is just for Saban and the team as a whole.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Okay, I'll go next.
Bill Murphy has a happy dollar.
Okay, good.
Well, I've got 2 happy dollars, and both of those, I guess, are in honor of Paul's team, Alabama. But I will tell you that I would be more than willing to contribute 100 happy dollars if he could get in touch with Lou Saban and convince him to go to Virginia Tech. So I'll leave that on the table.
I have 5 happy dollars, and I'm going to divide it $2.50 for Randy and $2.50 for Reggie for putting on our annual holiday celebration. I just can't tell you how much I enjoyed that. So thank you guys. I'm really happy about that. And that's $5, Randy. Jackie's got happy. You want to come over here, Jackie?
Oh, yes.
Wait until they can see you.
Right. I have I have 2 happy dollars. One, because of the party that Randy and Reggie put on, the 2 R's. It was so much fun that those who participated did not want it to end. It was really a lot of fun for a virtual occasion. And then I had $2 because Bill and I are learning how to live together. During the COVID period. And so we now are learning how to talk to each other and be nice to each other, even if it hurts. So that's $4, 2 for each.
Yeah, I have to, if I'm allowed, I'd like to add one more dollar to round Jackie out to 5, because Jackie and I are actually getting along much better. And in fact, my New Year's resolution is to be a more of a decent person to her. So it's working out, friends.
Stop whining.
Reggie's got a happy dollar.
Actually, you stole some of my thunder, and so did Jackie, but 10 happy dollars. And we're going to split it up between 3 different things. The holiday celebration that Randy so ably orchestrated, the White Elephant gift exchange, which was tremendous. Randy, you did a fabulous job. The other one is for Chuck and me. So we're in the same decade now, except I'm 74, Chuck. So I've got you by 4 years, just January 3rd, which was last week. And the rest of it is for the Washington football team making the playoffs.
Well, I'm a Ravens fan.
2015, I think it was, right?
I'm a Ravens fan, so maybe I'll see you in Super Bowl.
Yeah, that would be awesome, Chuck. But we're not going to make it this year.
Yeah,
Tom Brady saw to that.
yes.
Thanks for that, guys. $10 altogether.
Regina,
I have $1 and for not being at the party, but it looked like you all had a wonderful time. You're a great bunch.
Would have been better if you were there.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, Bill, I want to go back for a minute. I'll leave my original $2 happy dollars, but I forgot really to even mention Reggie and Randy. So I wanted to contribute another $5 happy dollars for them and the great job they did with that party. It was one of the best meetings we've had in a long time, and it was a lot of fun. I think everybody enjoyed it. And finally, I think I said Lou Saban, but obviously I meant Nick Saban, but we'll still take him at Virginia Tech anytime he's ready to go.
That chance.
Paul said that, cheers.
hey, money talks. I wouldn't put it past him.
He got all the money he can possibly ever spend.
All right. Well, look, if there are no more happy dollars, we'll shift to the highlight of this meeting. I'm looking forward to it. But remember the last time we were out, what was the drawing? Yeah, the drawing was after the park meeting. When we had the drawing for the cash lottery, this guy pops out of nowhere, and he's just like all over the place. And I said, what a fun guy. He said, well, we'll take pictures. I'm from the newspaper. And little did I know, he's just a super guy, a Rotarian who is transferring in from Maryland. In fact, he's transferred in. Jim Rich has been a member of the club for about 2 months now. And our tradition, and I guess you can tell us if it's true in your old club, is to have new members tell us all about themselves, all that they want to tell, and then open themselves up to questions. So Jim, we don't have to welcome you. We'll just ask you to come on stage, take yourself off mute, and tell us all about yourself and your family. You're on mute. Let me take you off. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you for that nice introduction. And again, thank you to everyone for putting up with my poor attendance. I would like to start this little story. In 1981, I was 25 years old at the time and sitting in a one-person bureau on for a newspaper bureau on the banks of the St. Lawrence Seaway, a little town called Ogdensburg, which is only a little bit larger than Cape Charles. And I got a call from my editor. This is now, about half an hour before deadline. And I get a call from the editor down in Watertown. I'm working for the Watertown Daily Times. And his name was Jim Kevlin, and he was very excited about a story. He said, Jim, we just got a report of a man who fell into a well, broke his leg, pulled himself out of the well, dragged himself across the barnyard, and he's in the hospital now. I want 10 inches for deadline. Now, 10 inches was about a page and a half of copy. And I had 30 minutes to research and write a page and a half paper. It's a very small town. It had its own hospital, but I knew that there were no telephones in the hospital rooms. So if I were going to get in touch with this guy, I would have had to work through the nurses station. So I opted to call the farm. Now, the guy was from a little town called Huvilton, and think Cheriton, and a little farm town. And so I call out to the home and I get this elderly guy. And I'd say, hey, my name is Jim Wrench. I'm a reporter for the Watertown Daily Times. I understand that someone fell in a well, broke his leg, pulled himself out of the well, dragged himself across the barnyard, and he's in the hospital now. Is there any truth to the report? And I get one of these, now wait a minute, young fella, slow down. And he said, it wasn't a well. Well, it's a well. It's the main well for the farm, but it's not what you're thinking of. It's a pit. It's maybe 3 feet deep. It's kind of square, 4 feet by 4 feet, and it's got this big grate across it. Something was wrong with the pump. They were working on it. They pulled the grate aside, and the guy just wasn't paying attention as he walked across the barn. Well, he said, no, he didn't fall in. I mean, well, yeah. I mean, his leg fell in. Yeah. And no, he didn't break his leg, but yeah, he banged it up, bruised it really badly. And well, no, he didn't pull himself. He stood up. Yeah. He stood up and I dragged, well, like I say, it was a bad bruise, and he kind of limped over. And when he got to the phone, he called his girlfriend, but he stutters really badly, and she couldn't understand what it was all about. So she called the ambulance. I don't know why he let him take him away, but right now he's upstairs resting. And I said, thank you very much. And I call my editor and I say, Jim, it wasn't a well. He didn't fall in. He didn't pull himself out of the well. He didn't drag himself across the barnyard, and he's not in the hospital. He's upstairs resting. And so Jim Kevlin says, oh, okay, well, just give me 8 inches. So I wander through this story. I'm green as grass. I've been in there for about 6 months, and I would have had a lot more fun with it today. And by the way, about 3 hours later, I open up the newspaper, and the headline is "Man Falls in Well." Huvilton man falls in well. Now, as badly turned around as the original report was, and this is why I probably would have had a lot more fun writing it today. The original report that went out over the police scanner was that the guy had cut himself in half with a chainsaw. So as turned around as we had it, and as badly as the headline was, which was written obviously before I filed the story, at least we were able to put out on the street what the facts really were. I was born into a newspaper family. So these kinds of stories were really kind of common. On the day that I was born, my dad's dad went to Martinez Community Hospital just east of San Francisco, in a little oil refinery town. He took his big speed graphic camera, made an image of my mother and I, and then took it back. And for the first time, possibly in the history of the Contra Costa Gazette, he turned the Associated Press wire photo machine from receive to send, and he sent the picture to my other grandfather, my mom's dad, excuse me, who was an editor at the New York Daily News in New York, then the largest circulation newspaper in America. And the picture came in at the time this is now 1956. news photographs were not accorded any respect at all in the newspaper industry. The editors at the Daily News at the time really only laid out page one. Everything else was left to the composing department. So and pictures were largely used to insert between between stories so that the headlines didn't bump. So this picture comes in, it's not even on the same floor as the newsroom. But it's addressed to Bob Shand, and he's upstairs, and somehow they've got to get him downstairs. He's on deadline. They hated to interrupt him, but they call him down. No, Bob, we can't handle it. This is too important. You've got to see it yourself. He comes down furious, and yay, congratulations, Granddad. Now, a couple of, a little backstory here. My granddad after this was going through his mail, and he was getting a lot of tear sheets, the little copies. Well, really it was the picture as it appeared it was printed out on the Associated Press machines, and fellow editors were taking it and just saying, "Hey, Bob, haven't seen you in a while," and sending it into him. The wire, as we think of it today, think the internet, was at the time, today it's very, very segmented. I mean, you send it from one editor to another editor. When I was in the newspaper industry in the 1980s, it was partially segmented. You would send it from one newspaper to a group of 3 to 5, and they would all receive the same picture. In 1956, it wasn't segmented at all. So my photo went from San Francisco to New York and every single newspaper in between. Now, one other important distinction between how newspaper photos are delivered were then, and how maybe the US Postal Service works. The post office collects the stamp and payment for delivery before the letter is sent. In newspapering, the assumption is that the receiving newspaper is going to print the picture, it's going to benefit from it, it's going to sell ads to pay for it, and so the recipient pays for the picture, for transmission of the picture. So my granddad's there at his office, he's going through the mail, he's getting these letters from friends, and then all of a sudden he gets the bill for sending my picture to every single newspaper in the continental United States. Things like this used to be common in the industry. But at any rate, my dad used to work for newspapers in the San Francisco Bay Area. Then he went to work for the Chicago Tribune. I grew up in Chicago. Dad left newspapering, went into public relations. We moved to DC. And so I spent my high school and I went away for college, but then I returned to DC, worked briefly in DC. And I fundamentally think of myself as a DC boy. From there, I went to Ogdensburg. And really my biggest achievement in Ogdensburg was reporting a story about negotiations between the housekeepers union and the local hospital. And I actually snuck into a closed door meeting, wasn't supposed to be there. Fortunately, tape recorded the meeting. And in the process, recorded the instructions for how, or a description of how the union in league with the hospital was going to defraud the New York State unemployment system. And the result of that story was that the union rep was transferred out almost immediately. the hospital director did not have his contract renewed. Well, there were someday ask me about that story because there were other fun little spin-offs. It was because we had recorded it, we were the only ones with the story, and it played havoc with our competing newspaper. So from there, I went down to Annapolis. I kind of wanted to return to the DC area, mid-Atlantic. I worked at the Annapolis Capitol, which unfortunately, as everyone probably knows, the newsroom was shot up about 2 years ago. I knew Scott McNamara, the sports writer who died. And while I was there, I became the entertainment tab editor. We ran it up in the period of a year. We were actually in a recession, and it was a time of declining advertising revenue. And we ran that up from about 20 pages a week to about 32, 36 pages a week. And it was so noticeable that for some reason, I still had no idea why, Annapolitan magazine put me in its People to Watch in 1989 cover story. And so what's the entertainment tab? Who in a newspaper hierarchy is the entertainment editor? Basically a nobody. And all of a sudden I was the one in the local magazine. It was fun. While I was there, I met my wife, Gloria, and who was then she worked for the DEA as an analyst and eventually as a strategic planner on the staff of the DEA administrator. And we have 2 kids, one of whom is now 25, working for the Defense Department in DC, one of whom is 29, trying to become a physician's assistant down at Emory University in Atlanta. So in 1989, they were supposed to be watching me, and really all I did was get married and leave town. I went to the University of Maryland, got an MBA, because I thought I wanted to be a small town publisher. So I came back, went to work for independent newspapers in Dover. They, after kind of going through various departments, there was an opening at the Salisbury News and Advertiser. I took it, and I actually was able to enjoy my dream of being a small town newspaper man. I did that for a while, eventually left, did some fundraising for a wonderful small nonprofit called Lower Shore Enterprises, help people with disabilities. We had a big endowment campaign, raised a fair amount of money, and then went on to start my own company, Disciple Picks, which was an attempt to use disruptive technology, if you will, databases to automate the publication of church directories. And first we had to learn how to do church directories, but this was just kind of mixing my interests as a photographer and publishing. Ran it for 5 years. Says we're just in the process. COVID did it in, and we're just in the process of closing that down. So here so what do you do when you're in retirement? Traditionally, you run for the condo board and you do volunteer work, and I'm doing both. I'm recently elected to the Fairways board at Bay Creek, and I'm volunteering for the Eastern Shore Post. Now, I have friends who don't feel that anyone should ever volunteer for a profit-making organization. And the federal government might agree because it does create all sorts of uncomfortable gray areas between what's an employee and what's a volunteer. So I want to say why I do it. And I want everyone to imagine for a moment that there was no Eastern Shore Post. How would that affect life in Cape Charles? Now, right away, we wouldn't have nearly the access to government information. It's a delightfully, I think, of a wonky paper in the sense that there's a very heavy emphasis on government meetings, and it really does give people a sense of where their tax dollars are going. We wouldn't have coverage of property transactions. We wouldn't have coverage of sports, which is a wonderful way for kids to get their first taste of what community praise feels like, what this kind of ephemeral benefit of being an achiever is all about. And if I may refer to one story that had from the last year that really did have an effect, we would not have known that the town council of Cape Charles had its hands slapped because it was failing to run its meetings by the open meetings law. And a Northampton County judge forced them to review it and to get back on the bandwagon and to stop a bad habit of doing all of their work in executive session. And it had an impact because here at the Fairways, we are trying to go back to the bylaws, trying to follow them. Where the Fairways board was doing all of its own, all of its work just in the same style as the town council. And so now it's going to be a little bit less opaque, and hopefully we'll do a better job of reporting to people. The reason that I bring this up is that we all should count our blessings that paper is here. It is here largely because of a fluke of geography. We're very isolated. But the newspapers across America have not enjoyed the same isolation. We've lost over 2,000 newspapers since the year 2000. 1 in every 5 newspapers has closed. And I don't believe that the Eastern Shore Post should ever be taken for granted. It's a wonderful little gem, and there's no guarantee that it will be there. And it has certain headwinds. It's easy to say. I mean, there is competition. I should stop here and interject that Joan Natali should probably be nominated for sainthood for the wonderful job that she does. Thank you, with the happenings emails. But she's a volunteer, and should something that important be left to volunteers? I know. I really think it's better for the community if businesses can make money, and I don't want to sound like I'm picking on her because she's doing a great job. But there are other news outlets that compete with the Post and which really provide editorial sugar water and take up advertising dollars. I see them as actually a disservice when the market is becoming so competitive. But I also think, so we, if I may leave this request, please subscribe to a newspaper. It doesn't have to, you can't subscribe to the Post, it's a free distribution paper. But subscribe to the newspaper of, hopefully plural, of your choice, because we as a society have fooled ourselves into believing that free news is good news, and we're only now understanding that free news is easily controlled by outside sources. It's not quality news. And to get quality news, you have to pay people to filter it and to digest it and to deliver it. I hope that one thing you can do for the Post is you can look at the advertising. You can patronize the businesses that are there. They're local. We should support them. And if you think of it, thank them for advertising in the paper. Finally, I think we all should support education, whatever we can do to improve the schools, because we as a society have allowed a really heavy responsibility to be placed on everyone's shoulders. And if we have this fire hose of news that we are subjecting people to, we have to equip them to ask whether individual stories actually jibe with how they believe that the government and the world and the issues and the people, does it ring true? And they also have to know enough to appreciate sources and how good or not so good those sources are going to be. If you look at the educational performance of America, we as baby boomers do not have a particularly good record. The schools did great until the 70s. And then since then, we really have not paid attention, and we have fallen in the rankings of educational performance when compared to graduates in other countries. So I guess what I'm really trying to say here is that if America had more people who were delving into and investigating whether or not someone actually fell into a well or not, then we might have fewer people storming the Capitol. Thank you.
Questions for hey, Jim, that was great, by the way. And you're in trouble now, friend. Stanley you have a question, Stan, or you just applauding?
Just applauding.
He's just applauding. Any
just
questions
applauding.
Okay.
I have a comment.
Oh, Medi has a comment.
Go ahead, Medi.
Well, I thought that the point of being a newspaperman was all of the misadventures that he had, and it was quite fun. And yet at the same time, you ended up very seriously advocating for newspaper patronage. And it seems to me that that the news is shaped by the people who are reporting it, and the opinion and the consequences are not controlled, just like the union, the housekeeping union consequences that you mentioned. And yet at the same time, there is a propensity for dramatizing the news, such as the headlines that you first mentioned, where in fact that the incident actually did not happen in the way that the headline was shaped. But as in these days of fake news, that's really very difficult to negotiate.
fake news really means two things, I believe. It means news that is correct, but highly opinionated, presented in a highly opinionated way, such that it's really the opinion, not the fact, that it's out of context. And the other thing, the other bit of fake news is it's just not true. Maybe because it's so bent out of context that you just can't believe it. I think that some of this is because of structural changes. We've got, newspapers used to be independent fiefdoms that were profitable and highly local. Today, we've got bloggers, and we've got we've got less local news being produced and more people chasing the same stories. And when you get into that kind of competition, you're inevitably going to have more competition for clicks, clickbait. You're always going to be, you're adding pressure to become more titillating with every retelling of the story. And yes, newspaper people are not immune to that pressure. The only way to reverse that, for us to reverse it, is to somehow inject money back into the system and to subscribe, to advertise, to encourage use of the papers. The one thing that I can say, it's been, I know that this is true at the Post, and I know it was true in my 12 years of active day-to-day newspapering, that the people believed, editors and reporters really do believe that they are public servants. They are surrounded by other people who take news gathering and the presentation of news seriously and honorably. And that because they're dealing with it day to day, they know the nuances of what to do and what not to do. And I think in the internet, in the blogosphere, in we have allowed people to become one-person news organizations, not bureau reporters who were reporting within an organization and within a newsroom. And as the internet has fractured the industry and given voice to single individuals, it has allowed those individuals to wander into terrain that they were never trained to go in. And so much of this honorable pursuit of news has been kind of worn away by this fracturing. I don't think that newspaper people have any, I don't think that people who are a part of a genuine news gathering organization have any less interest in doing things right. I think it's the wanderings of, we've, even here in Cape Charles, we've got a blog that as an information professional, I don't think is credible. And I think that we're surrounding ourselves with exactly these kinds of amateur productions and confusing them with the kind of professional work that we used to pay for. And really, if we believe it's free news is good, then we're getting exactly the quality that we're paying for.
Well, but in Cape Charles, the free news as reported by Joan Natale's happenings is really the
Well, that's very true. And it's also Jones is a niche product. She focuses on happenings, on events. I mean, it is very important. It encourages people to participate in the community. No question. It's an essential service, and she does a really good job. Part of the key here is that she focuses on events that are coming. She's not covering events that are occurring now or have occurred, by and large. And so she is able to be almost 100% accurate because she's presenting what people plan to do. The world gets much, much messier when you're trying to figure out what they actually did, and especially since a lot of people want to hide what they did. So I can only applaud what she is doing, and Cape Charles is incredibly fortunate to have her and her time. And it's a wonderful piece that I read every time it comes out. I go through and I look for story ideas and photo ideas, and we're
gives you really a picture of what's happening in the community. It gives you a picture. But the announcements that she reports gives you a picture of what the community is all about.
It gives you a very accurate, I would say no. It gives you a very accurate image of what the community wants to be and of what it's planning to be. And you don't really know how well. It's not enough. It's just not enough. It's wonderful for what it is, but you would never know whether your taxes were well spent by looking at any listing of coming events.
Look, I'd like to have one more comment or question for Jim before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh God. We'll give it to Randy. Sorry, Chuck.
Jim, I'd like your opinion on the most widely quoted person in the news media today, which is the anonymous source.
Oh, yes. Wow. Well, and again, when you've got more so it used to be that local news was what we looked at all the time. We had, and part of the beauty of local news is that when it comes out, everyone reads that particular source, or sources, and you're talking to friends. The sources are almost always identified when you're dealing with local news. The exceptions are victims of rape or domestic violence, that sort of thing. And but government figures, they're always identified. The problem comes when we have this hyper-competitive focus on national news. And then actually those sources become much more powerful because they can favor one news outlet over another one, and they can make demands such as, well, I'll tell you, but you can't, you can't pass it on, or you can't pass it on. You can't identify. You can pass it on, but you can't identify. So I think some of the increase in these sources, unnamed sources, is simply because national and international news has become our day-to-day grist. Even here on the Eastern Shore, the Post comes out on Fridays. What local news do you really have other than weather on Saturday through Thursday? Not much. And the television is not gonna, television's out of Virginia Beach, the radio has a tiny little newsroom. The editorial muscle of America is in its newspapers. And we would all be better served if it was in our local newspapers rather than New York Times, Washington Post, even the Wall Street Journal. And I picked those three because I subscribe to all of them. Oh well, I blather on.
Well, look,
So
Jim, you're just gonna have to come to more meetings and be vocal. It's just that simple. And I say that tongue in cheek, but let me re-welcome you to the community. Jim, you are definitely an asset in our community. I know you're an asset to our Rotary Club, and we thank you for that. And as long as you stick around, and we know you're around, you'll be okay with us.
Thank you.
Thank you again. All right, Diane, are you there? All right, with regard to what we think, say, and do. 1, is it the truth? 2, is it fair to all concerned? 3, will it build goodwill and better friendships? 4, will it be beneficial
to all concerned.
And Stanley,
Will we have fun?
see you next week, folks.
Hey, Mike, Wisda.